brief history of natural selection. It's fiction. The bus wheezes to a halt in front of the museum, and right away they lose one. That obnoxious McDougal kid who'd been hanging out the window the whole way finally falls out. Onto the LRT tracks, turned to paste within seconds because the 10:15 train is always on time. Unfortunate because the anti-LRT councillors at City Hall will exploit the boys' death to promote their pro-subway agendas, to disrupt well-laid plans, upset the proper order of things. See, Miss Irwin says, peering out the bus window at the mess on the tracks, this is what I'm talking about. Was the risk worth the reward? The students, grade 3s from the suburbs, unbuckle their seatbelts and file off the bus, following Miss Irwin close, because they're in the big city where people snatch your wallet, spit on the street, and throw drugs in your face. Tilly and Blaine, grade 12s, helping supervise the field trip, finishing the last few hours of their community involvement requirement, untangle from one another, button up and stumble out of their wheel well seat and chase after the group. A passerby snatches Blaine's wallet, but Tilly, always on guard, ever aware of her surroundings, grabs the perpetrator's hand and twists, breaks the guy's arm in 6 places. Down he goes. She retrieves the wallet and puts her heel on the guy's neck, set to do the world a favor, but Blaine stops her. Spare him, Blaine says. The perpetrator, writhing on the sidewalk, looks to Tilly, his eyes pleading, yes, spare me. He'll learn from this, Blaine says, he'll be better. Pleading eyes from the sidewalk, yes, better. Blaine is soft, he puts up a tough front, at school, with football, but when it comes down to it, he's weak. Tilly knows she doesn't need him. She knows he slows her down, makes her weaker. But being with him somehow still feels right. Tilly takes her foot off the guy's neck. Instead, she reaches down and breaks his other arm in 6 places. Blaine and Tilly stand over the wailing degenerate and make out, messily. Cars honk, acknowledging the fine young specimen, and maybe also Blaine. The class congregates in the lobby of the museum for a head count before Miss Irwin leads them beyond the velvet ropes. It's a self-guided tour, as the television ad for the Museum of Natural Selection says, if you need a guide, you don't belong here. They pass through a stone archway under a carving that reads, herein lie the ones who did not make it, and into the maze-like exhibit area, dimly lit except for energy-efficient LEDs illuminating info plaques and artifacts. The first exhibit, Guy at Ball Game, is a baseball and beer can in a glass case. The ball, with black bat scuff, and the can of Maximum Buzz, dented and somehow still half full, are all that remain. Gone is Brad, who'd lunged over the 500 level railing for that foul ball. Just had to have it. How high up was that? Asks little Priscilla. Miss Irwin scans the info plaque. High. Why did he need the ball so bad? Sometimes men need conversation pieces, Miss Irwin says. It can help give their lives meaning. A few feet ahead is the DIYer, a 9.6 volt Ryobi cordless drill in excellent condition, alongside the still sealed copy of The Dangers of Doing Electrical Work Yourself that Kent's wife had bought for his 35th and final birthday. Miss Irwin reads the class the info plaque. Good intentions shall not deliver us from harm. Kent meant well, truly his was an altruistic goal. Finish the basement, give his children another 400 square feet for their urine-soaked toys. But knowing when you're in over your head is an asset. A licensed electrician would have remembered which breakers to shut off before wiring the receptacles. My dad is finishing our basement, says little Wendy. Miss Irwin places a hand on the child's shoulder. I'm sorry, dear. Let's ditch, Blaine says, sliding his hands around Tilly's waist. There was a janitor's closet back there. Miss Irwin swats Blaine's hands off Tilly, and the group moves to the next exhibit. Touch her again and I'll make sure you turn out like this next guy here. The next guy being Machete Juggler, whose exhibit features 2 severed hands strung up with invisible twine, swaying in the breeze of the air conditioning. Blaine swallows hard. Anyone know why this one died? Miss Irwin asks the class. Little Carla raises her hand. Because he was careless? Exactly, Miss Irwin says, eyeing Blaine. The sooner we work the carelessness out of humanity, the better. Carla receives high fives and pats on the back from her classmates. Blaine stays put as the group proceeds. Miss Irwin and Tilly lead the way. Blaine takes up the rear. What are you doing with him? Miss Irwin asks Tilly. He's an ape. I like apes, Tilly says. You know that automobile of his still runs on fossil fuels? That's the kind he needs for his street racing. This is the kind of person you want to be with? A crash test dummy? Tilly, he needs you, you don't need him. I know, Tilly says, avoiding eye contact. It doesn't make sense. Your parents are worried about you, Miss Irwin says, about your judgment, about the decisions you're making, that you've hitched your wagon to this boy who's barely got the brain function to work his seatbelt. He only went through the windshield once. Tilly, this isn't a joke. Your parents are afraid that you're not going to survive high school. Not with your wagon hitched, not with Blaine doing the steering. He just makes me feel so alive. With his primitive urges, I have primitive urges too. Miss Irwin folds her arms. You're a better specimen than that, Tilly. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's a glitch in my DNA, a bug we haven't collectively worked out, an imperfect strain I inherited because I alone am meant to address it, like on behalf of all women. Now you're thinking, Miss Irwin says. Before lunch, the class hits up Mindless Show-Off, the teen boy who licked oily driveways with shock value, not liver failure in mind. Urban Explorer, who plunged into the sewers with his GoPro, but didn't check the weather network for flash flood warnings. And Car Surfer, which, yes, is as dumb as it sounds. Rowdy and overstimulated by education, the kids pour into the museum's food court. Here they're served potato chips, gummy worms, and deep-fried chocolate bars. If we're supposed to be advancing as a species, shouldn't we be eating asparagus and kale? Asks little Priscilla. Miss Irwin smiles. Well done. On cue, out come the waiters with the asparagus and kale. That was a test? Asked little Wendy. Isn't everything? Says Mr. Irwin. Thanks.